Hello there, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Wednesday, May 4, 2022. It's about 10:40 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States. The uproar over the leak of a draft opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito on the Supreme Court of the United States, a draft which, if it becomes the majority opinion, will overturn Roe versus Wade. The uproar continues. In fact, the uproar is monumental. It's a tidal wave politically. Republicans, whether they are serious believers in right to life or just attaching themselves to the Catholic and Christian communities, seemed overjoyed, but the Democrats seem animated, fiercely, wildly, almost violently animated in their apocalyptic predictions for what may happen next. This whole thing comes down to whether or not the mother has the right to kill a baby in her womb. The Supreme Court's opinion in Roe versus Wade is based on the right to privacy. It makes it clear there's no right to an abortion under the Constitution. So when President Biden says, under Roe versus Wade, you have a constitutional right to abortion, that's wrong. Under Roe versus Wade, you have a constitutional right to privacy, and the decisions made between the mother and the physician in that zone of privacy are immune from government intrusion. Now, that's not a distinction without a difference. Privacy comes from the Fourth Amendment. Privacy keeps the government out of our persons, houses, papers, and effects. Privacy is the quintessential American right. You might not know that listening to Stephen Colbert.
Privacy is not inherent in the Constitution. What does that affect? What other rulings could that affect? Is that Obergefell, which is gay marriage, or Loving v. Virginia, which is interracial marriage?
Privacy is as American as apple pie. And the Supreme Court has found a half dozen different places in the Constitution from which the right to privacy comes, not the least of which is the writings of James Madison, who wrote the Fourth Amendment, or Justice Louis Brandeis, who said the most civilized right is the right to be left alone. He actually wrote let alone, but today we'll say left alone. So Stephen is suggesting that if there isn't the right to kill your baby in your womb, somehow there won't be the right to choose your mate. Well, that's not protected by privacy. That's protected by substantive due process, a different clause in the Constitution, one that keeps the government out of interfering with intimate decisions, like who is your mate, an intimate decision. That's none of the government's business. What is the race of your mate? An intimate decision that is none of the government's business. That was resolved under the 14th Amendment, not under the right to privacy, where the Supreme Court said the states are obliged to protect everybody equally. And if they allow whites to marry whites and blacks to marry blacks, they have to allow whites to marry blacks. So this is an attempt to confuse the constitutional principles at stake here. What is really at stake here is the failure of the state to recognize the personhood of the baby. If the baby is a person, then because the Constitution requires the states to protect the life, liberty, and property of all persons, and because it protects postnatal persons from homicide, it must protect prenatal persons from homicide as well. That's not in the Alito opinion. That's Judge Napolitano. That's me on personhood and the Constitution. What Justice Alito has written in the draft, if it becomes the law of the land, says two things. One, this is not a federal issue. So Bernie Sanders, if the Congress enacts a law guaranteeing the right to an abortion, the court will invalidate it. It's not a federal issue. So don't get your hopes up, Senator Sanders. Two, health care and criminal law are reserved to the states. So if you want to live in a state where they'll pay for abortions, they may even pay you to have an abortion. Go to California or New Jersey. If you want to live in a state where the right to life is respected from shortly after conception, go to Oklahoma or Texas. As Ronald Reagan used to say, the beauty of this is you can vote with your feet. Again, in my opinion, and I've been a legal scholar for nearly 50 years, the baby in the womb is a person entitled to all the protections of postnatal persons. But that's not what this case does. This case removes some, but not all abortions. So if you look at this from a moral perspective, abortion is one great, enormous evil. It's homicide of the most vulnerable. If we can stop some of those homicides, even most of them, that's a good thing. I'd like to stop all of them. I'd like to stop all homicides. That's probably not feasible in the current political environment. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.